coming in. I will call to order the Tuesday, August 25th special called meeting of the Van Alstyne City Council. We do have a quorum, and the meeting agenda was posted in accordance with Texas Open Meetings Act. Item 2 is public testimony. We will be glad to hear from any citizens on any item on the agenda tonight. Is there anyone who seeks recognition to address the council on any items tonight? Second call for comments from the public. Being no one seeking recognition, I will declare item 2 to be completed. Item 3 is the consent agenda. Would anybody like to remove anything from the consent agenda to be discussed separately? I have a question on item B, so we'll pull that off. So that leaves item A on the consent agenda. Would entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
Make a motion to approve.
Dusty has moved to approve. Zach has seconded that motion. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That motion carries 6 votes to 0. Item B, there's a couple things listed that we're going to seek closure on FM 121, Sounds of Summer and Fall Celebration. We may need to add to that the downtown trick-or-treating. Can we do that at a later date? How much notice do we need to give? I could not find that in our agreement.
Candy's not here to speak. You want to add what to it?
Downtown trick-or-treating, October 31st.
24, what's the Saturday before that?
I've got on my calendar as the 31st of October.
No, they moved it.
The P&Z calendar has the Saturday before. Not the P&Z, the Public Works.
You could
Parks
add
and
it
Rec.
at the September meeting to the ordinance. I was going to put the ordinance on there anyway to add more
Yes,
events to it. You can't add it tonight because you're not changing the ordinance. You're just doing the resolution.
okay. Thank you,
But-
ma'am.
But September, if you'll get me a list of events that you want to put on the ordinance.
Yeah, there's some chamber events too I thought of that we may or may not want to close down the streets for 121 specifically.
You'll get
Other
them
streets we can
before that
close whenever we
September
feel-
meeting, we'll
Yep.
get them on there as
Very
long as
good.
everybody, and then council can vote on it.
Thanks. Okay, would entertain a motion regarding item B as written.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Dusty has moved to approve. Is there a second?
Second.
Marla has seconded that motion. All in favor of approving consent agenda item B, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries 6 votes to 0. Item 4A, consider, discuss, and take action on an ordinance authorizing the issuance of and sale of up to $16,250,000 City of Van Alstyne, Texas Combination Tax and Revenue Certificates of Obligation, Series 2026, to provide funds for street and utility system improvements, levying an annual ad valorem tax, and providing for the payment of said certificates, and ordaining other matters related to the subject. Welcome back.
Mayor, I believe he's going to present both items at one time, and then you can go items and vote one at a time.
Thank you, Susan. I appreciate it.
Mayor, Council, good afternoon. Jorge with Hilltop Securities. And you've got Andre Ayala, my partner with Hilltop Securities, team that represents Van Alstyne as your municipal advisory team here for the city. Yes, these 2 agenda items are under this presentation, so we'll be covering both. Thanks for having us here today. What we want to do is walk you through this presentation. Any questions you may have, please ask away. The city's no stranger to issuing certificates of obligation, but there's an additional piece to this transaction, which is a bit of a restructuring of a portion of the city's debt, and I'll get into those details. So given that, I want to make sure I address everything for you here tonight. We've got some good results here. We did sell bonds this morning and your certificates, and the outcome is very positive. I'll get into those final results, but I want to give you a quick refresher what we're doing here. You may recall that back in June, we were here talking to you about funding a number of roadway improvements and utility improvements for a total of $15.182 million. That has not changed. That is what you would be funding today. The details of those projects are, here they are as it relates to the roadways. You've got the Highway 75, FM 121 overpass. You've got the expansion of the Colin McKinney Parkway. an unnamed road which connects Colin McKinney Parkway to Highway 75, and then the frontage road south of FM 121, and then utility improvements related to that, or utility infrastructure. At the same time, Council, what very early in the stages of this plan of finance discussion with you and your city staff, which were very close, very detailed conversations, and financial planning, we discussed at the same time restructuring a portion of the city's debt to open up capacity so that you're able to fund this within the project that you're thinking about approving here on September 8th, right? The idea and the direction from you and from city staff is to make this work within the property tax rate that you have today. And by accommodating some payments, restructuring some payments and accommodating the new debt, we're able to get there. So, I'm here to tell you today that that goal will be achieved. You're able to cover this with some reserves that you have on hand, that you have accumulated strategically for this, and at the same time, the restructuring of a portion of your debt. And it works within the debt service tax rate that you had last year and that you're thinking about approving going into the next fiscal year, if that makes sense. Once you gave us direction to proceed, we did get on the phone with Moody's, with Mr. Lane Jones and Ms. Sherry Staber, to talk to them about our bond program, and nothing different than what we have done in the past. You got a very nice write-up this time, so I just want to highlight this for you because this is what allows you to access the bond market sufficiently. Your AA3 rating is what you had going into this, and you got a further affirmation of your AA3 rating. It's important to note that this is a third party. Moody's is the toughest rating agency out there, and really they really look at you closely. Their criteria is one of the toughest ones out there. But they have a nice write-up. Again, I do want to highlight that they do recognize strong economic growth here in your community, driven by both residential and commercial. At the same time, your demographics are positive, are rating positive for you because they recognize the fact that you have above median resident income. At the same time, financial performance has been viewed as positive in this recent write-up with an expected surplus in your general fund going into fiscal year 2027 of around $400,000. They like to see you building up those reserves, and you certainly have done that going into the next fiscal year. Again, that's a credit positive. And they also recognize the fact that you have revenue gains, not just your property tax revenues, but your sales tax, your enterprise funds. They like to see the growth in those, and you have demonstrated that over time as we show them your audited financials and your year-to-date financials. Moody's recognizes that there could be additional borrowing, but they're not dinging you for that. They understand that a growing community has borrowing needs, and they recognize the fact that you're leveraging borrowing needs with the way your tax base is growing. That's the fourth bullet point right there. Continued expansion should offset any future debt issuances in their point of view. Governance, big kudos to your management. Governance is an important consideration in all entities that Moody's takes a look at. That's a big driver of their credit rating criteria. They recognize that your management plans accordingly and keeps reserves above the informal target. So, congratulations on that. And again, to you all, you are the ones that are also part of the city's governance. It's a volatile market. Having a AA3 rating is a very good thing as you go and sell bonds in what, in a financial market that has seen volatility because of everything that's going on geopolitically. Investors flock to quality, and the city of Van Alstyne is certainly a quality investment, as you will see here in a bit. When we distribute the documents, we always like to show our clients this slide. This shows the amount of views that you got by all the market participants. These are news sources, bond houses, financial institutions such as banks out of all over the world, nationally. So we want to show you that you did get good reception from the industry, and this is just a week's worth of activity. So it's nice to see that you've got a lot of viewership here. I think this is the key slide to discuss with you today. When you gave us a green light to proceed, we always budget conservatively, and we want to make sure that it fits within the budget that you're thinking about. But at the same time, we understand the rates move, so we want to make sure we budget conservatively. Today, The benefits compared to what you approved to us to move forward with is around $1.38 million less in interest expense to the city. So that's a real benefit to the city. This is what you would lock in today. If you calculate it on an annual basis, that's around $46,000 less in annual payments in this debt that you'd be approving. This is the combination of the restructuring and the new money. So it's nice to see that you're able to really capture a lower cost of borrowing in a market that has been a little bit choppy. These are just the transaction numbers. Again, the city's getting $15.182 million on September 23rd, should you proceed with today's transaction. You're restructuring around $6 million of outstanding debt, just a piece of your overall debt portfolio to accommodate this debt issuance. Key slide again here. One of the things that the city has always done strategically is fund projects as your tax base has been growing, but understanding that your tax rate has either decreased or kept the same. And we want to show the best graphical portrait of this that we could. But here we show you that from 2018, you've consistently lowered or kept your tax rate flat, and your tax base has grown. So you've leveraged your growth to be able to continue to fund the projects. I know last year you still funded those certificates without a change to the property tax rate. You'd be doing that today. So we just wanted to show you how that trend has tracked. We think it's a good graphic of how the city has leveraged the growth within its budget. These are the cash flows. If anyone wants to get into those. Just how the annual payments are going to look. This is something that we've really worked closely on with Sherry and her office and Mr. Lane Jones. So know that your finance office has vetted this and has really reviewed this closely with us prior to locking in the final payments. If you want to get into this, I'm happy to do so. And then finally, Mayor, Council, should you approve this today, and I mentioned that you'd be closing on September 23rd. We're supportive of the proposal you have today from Stifel, who's the bond underwriter in this transaction. They put in the work and they gave you a market result, an efficient market result, and you're able to meet all the parameters that you approved back in the plan of finance to proceed. But with that, want to answer any questions about this bond program that you may have.
Thank you, Mr. Delgado. Questions for Mr. Delgado from council?
I have one.
Yes, sir.
Going back to the emails slide that you showed, roughly 10%. That was good
Let me go back to
as
that
far
one.
as the unique views.
Sorry, I skipped it. So this is how many key industry participants opened up your offering documents and took a close look at possibly investing in or buying the city certificates or the bonds. We've got about 124. When we say buy side, that could be financial institutions out of New York, hedge funds, banks, any type of institution but buys these bonds for institutional investors, the big boys. And then financial news and services, Wall Street Journal, the bond buyer, anything that's related to financial news, CNBC. This is what the type of viewership that you're getting there. I don't know specifically which financial news outlets, but think of that type of financial news. Very good reach. This is a 7 days worth of activity. And this is aside from what your bond underwriter is, who else they're talking to, right? This is just a kind of statistics from a third party that we use to publish your documents.
Other questions from council?
It's got a 10-year where they can be restructured, earliest time frame, or called.
So yeah, thanks for bringing that up, Mr. Neal. So yes, so actually on the taxable restructuring, you've got an 8-year. We wanted to explore the shortest option possible on that specific piece without hurting your borrowing cost, and then the certificates of obligation have a standard 10-year.
Okay.
You've got a mix of an 8 and a 10.
All right. So 8, we can restructure the interest rates if interest rates drop. 10, we can call them if we get into a windfall of money.
That's right. Any of those two, if you ever fall into a windfall of money, you can do what's a cash early prepayment or a defeasance. You could always do that on any of those two, but if you want to refinance for savings, 8 and 10 years is your standard.
Gotcha.
Yes, sir.
Perfect.
So just to be clear, I think I understand, but I'll ask you, the 16.25 million is, we're actually buying stuff, roadways, infrastructure on wastewater. The 7.4 is a restructuring of existing debt. So
Yes,
we're not getting anything new, we're paying off debt, replacing that to spread out the payments. Is that accurate?
That's accurate, Mayor. You're not getting, that's not money going to the city. That's money that's going to be used to pay off the old debt and then replace it with new payments that strategically are placed where it fits your budget the best. What the city is getting at closing is $15,182 million for projects.
Okay.
That's the only new money that the city would be getting.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Anyone else? All right. We're on item A, consider, discuss, and action on the ordinance authorizing the issuance of sale of up to 16.25.
I do have one more, I'm
Oh,
sorry.
yep. Councilman Dean.
Capacity-wise, when we take these on, if you go back to that graph that showed the tax rate and then the growth. Yeah, right there. So, oh, go back one.
Sorry. There it is.
So if you look from 2026 to 2027, obviously we had a decrease just because we didn't grow. We didn't have as many new homes on the ground as we needed. That probably will be replaced a little bit based on, we'll have higher sales tax revenue coming into the next couple of years. But if we look at our borrowing capacity after we take on these certificate of obligations this year, and if we have the same type of an event from last year to this year to next year, will that force us to have to raise our tax rate in order to meet these debt obligations?
One of the, and that's a great question, one of the fund reserves or the debt service reserves that I was talking about, and I'm gonna get a little bit detailed here. The city has built up strategically in an event where your tax base is flat or diminishing.
That's the numbers y'all are using.
Where
Using a conservative.
we're using a conservative growth based on rooftops that, you kind of expect that are going to hit here, but I think it's I'd say it's on the rather conservative side in our conversations with city staff.
Okay.
Now, in an event that it's not as rapid as expected or as budgeted, we see a couple things happening. You've got a significant amount of cash on your debt service fund balance that can only be utilized to offset or buy down the debt service tax rate.
Yep.
That's number one, and that can only be used for debt service. There's $1.3 million as of the 25 audit in there.
And that will buy us a year and a half or more.
Yes, sir. Now, the city can always use any legally available funds to buy down the debt rate if you so decide to do so before thinking about using more tax rate for the outstanding debt in that event. So you've got a handful of tools before you've got to think about that.
Okay.
The way we've
But
looked at
our new borrowing capacity would probably shrink to probably nothing if we have another event going into next year that was similar from last year to this year.
for the next couple of years, that could be a likely scenario if your tax base continues to stay flat.
Okay.
Now,
Yeah, I just wanted to, I understand we have options to, if we do stay flat, to service this debt, because we're not going to stay flat for, hope that we're not going to stay flat for year after year after year. But where if we're still just getting some of these things going and we don't see some of these tax revenues that are not going to happen until maybe 2028, that we have the ability to service this debt in 2027 without having to, add to the tax rate to pay it down with more taxes from the citizens. So I just wanted to hear it and ask the question, so.
correct.
Thank you, sir. Anything else? Okay, regarding item A, would entertain a motion regarding action on the issuance and sale of up to 16.25 million certificates of obligation.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Got a motion from Ryan, is there a second?
Second.
Second from Lee. Any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion carries 6 votes to 0. Same discussion and action on the ordinance authorizing the issuance and sale of up to 7.4 million of general obligation refunding bonds. Anyone care to make a motion on the 7.4?
I'll make a motion.
Lee has
I'll
moved to
second it.
approve, and that was Ryan seconding the motion?
Yes, sir.
Got a motion and a second to approve. Is there any further discussion? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Anyone opposed or abstaining? That motion also carries 6 votes to 0. Item 5A, Hilltop Securities, regarding a proposed plan of finance related to the City of Van Alstyne, Texas, Special Assessment Revenue Bond, Series 2026, Lone Tree Public Improvement District Phase 1 project, and provide feedback and direction to city staff and consultants regarding said plan of finance.
Good evening, Mayor, Council, Andre Ayala with Hilltop Securities, financial advisor to the city. Before I get into the plan of finance for Lone Tree, I would like for our developer to give you a status update so that you can get a status update on the project. And then after he's done that, we can talk about the financing of the pit.
Good idea. Thank you, sir.
So while he's getting that set up, Rob McLean, Vice President of Land Development for JBEZ Development, developing Lone Tree on the west side of town, right on the west side of the high school. Wanted to come just provide a development update on where we're at. Brought some pretty pictures. We can leave that here with y'all at the city if you care to have them. When we started this project, started talking about this project, me and Lane were just, it's almost 2.5 years ago, meeting with Lane and Alex, and started running through everything. The strong kind of foundational point that the city's stance was, if we're going to talk about a PID and introduce a TERS, there's going to be a high level of amenities. We wanted a 10-acre public park. We wanted enhanced infrastructure. And so we worked through the enhanced infrastructure part, got that done, and wanted to present where we're at right now with the renderings for the public park. We'll be dedicating, I'll go through kind of the features that the park will have, and then kind of go through the pool and amenity center that we're going to be bringing forward out of Phase 2 and developing that and building that in Phase 1. So the pool will kind of sit on the southwest side of the project. We have a large retention wet pond that'll have a fountain in it. We're going to stock it for fishing. We'll have a pier on it. The rendering doesn't have the fence just because 3D is hard sometimes with these renderings, but we'll have a railing around it for safety. But we'll have rocking chairs on there, and people can go out there, walk on it, fish off the pier or around the embankment of the pond. And then the pool will be a gated private amenity for the residents of Lone Tree, but it will sit elevated and overlooking the pond, and we think it'll be a really pretty amenity for the residents to enjoy. And we'll have a couple fire pits within the pool area as well, within the enclosed fence area. So we're excited about that. We had underwritten that to be in Phase 2. We're in a slower market, as I'm sure y'all are aware. So we got with the builders, and we're going to bring that forward and put that in the ground 6 months roughly after completion. We're estimating to open it by Memorial Day in 2027. And then the audience can't see. I'll go back to that picture. That's the pool. Sorry, no one could see the picture over here. That's the pool, dock. It's another view of the pool, just kind of sitting elevated overlooking the pond and area. So here's Lone Tree Park. Really excited about this. Jennifer and Alex, we've started talking last summer, kind of dreaming, what do we want here at the park? Worked together, multiple conversations. So I feel like we're kind of fitting a lot of things here at the park that I'm excited about. I think it's good for the Lone Tree residents, and I think it's going to be good for the city of Van Alstyne as a whole. So just a couple of features within the park area. We have a large playground. It's going to have the rubber surfacing, so it will kind of be that squishy rubber surfacing. If you walk on, it won't be mulch or gravel, it's an elevated surfacing. We'll have 4 pickleball courts that will be lighted. We'll have a picnic area and pavilion right next to the pickleball court that kind of separates between the pickleball area and the soccer fields. Have kids. One's a huge club soccer guy, so I wanted to make sure that we had the right regulation size field, because it's Jennifer's big hope and dream was that they would be able to have soccer games for Van Alstyne's kind of soccer league for youth soccer here. So the field, if played long ways, will be able to host a full-size 7v7 game, which is usually in that kind of U8, U9 range. And then if you play widthwise, there's enough space for 3 5v5 games to be going on, and then enough space for kind of teams and people to bring their chairs and set up between there. So excited to offer that for Van Alstyne. A bathroom building, and then we have put a sliding garage and expanded storage on the back of that bathroom building for the park service, the park equipment and striping equipment and a mower and miscellaneous equipment there on site, so they're not having to drag it around. We have a large, I'll click to the next picture. We have a large dog park on the southwest side of the park area that we're going to thin out and leave as many trees as possible to provide shade for people that want to come to the dog park year round. And then 2 parking lots. And so originally we were proposing 1 parking lot, but once we started kind of dreaming like this is going to be used for soccer games, I don't know about you guys, but that transition's always pretty gnarly, and we didn't want that in the neighborhood, so we're going to add a second parking lot. So we'll have over 50 parking spaces for everyone to kind of transition in and out of, and we're flanking on both sides of the park. So again, we're excited about this. It's a great enhancement inside our community. We're happy to build it and partner with the city on it, but I think it's going to be a great park feature and add for the city as a whole. So kind of going back to, I'll get in kind of just high-level development updates. Go back to the first. I clicked it too many times. I did, yep. So this is south-facing on the Jim Jones Extension Road, which is going to be our spine road coming up to 121. So you'll be on 121, head south down Jim Jones Road, which is going to be our extended collector, to provide just more traffic kind of collector, so we can take traffic off of the main road on the east that goes into the school. So that'll be open with phase 1. We're obviously enhancing Cartwright as well. But this will be the coming into the community from the north heading south, kind of flanking on both sides. It's an enhanced entry feature. We think it'll provide a nice sense of arrival for everyone coming not only to the neighborhood but also to the park, because the park will sit just 1 block south of this entryway. So it'll be sitting kind of on the north side of the community. So again, just trying to highlight kind of our partnership with the city, where we've tried to elevate as best we can within our means to do an enhanced amenity center, an enhanced park that we're dedicating to the city, and enhanced entry features. High-level development update where we're at. We're finally starting to pave. Kind of the rain hit us real hard in May and June, kind of slowed us down, but we were able to wrap up utilities towards the end of June, start working on subgrade prep. And now the crews are out there liming and trimming. Batch plant will be there next week. We'll start putting concrete on the ground. We'll be paved complete by the end of September. And then we move straight into all the activities that go into punching out of development. We'll be finished grading the lots, bringing in the franchise utilities, punching out the curb inlets, wet utilities, things like that. We have worked with the Public Works Department to do an early walk to get the models released in early December. And then all the landscaping and all the hardscaping on the perimeter side will be finished by the end of February for substantial completion. The public park will be open by the end of April, and then the pool, like I mentioned earlier, by Memorial Day in the May. So that's kind of a high level what you can expect out of us over the next, call it 9 months. But yeah, here to answer any questions on the development before we pass it back over to your advisors.
Thank you, Mr. McLean. Questions for Mr. McLean from council?
I just have one. If you're talking about 3 games going on at once of soccer, I don't think 50 parking spots is gonna do the trick for how many people are gonna need to park in that deal for the soccer games. And so you're gonna have a bunch of cars in your development in front of houses.
Yeah.
And it's not gonna be fun. And it's not gonna be fun for the city, and it's not gonna be fun for the residents, and it's just gonna create quite a bit of mess. So I don't know how far y'all are along on that, but I would revisit that portion of it and make more parking spots.
And we'll work with Jennifer. That was the biggest concern, was if we're hosting games, and we squeeze in as much parking as the site would yield us without taking away other features like the playground or the pickleball courts. So, the soccer league, we'll have to work with them, and maybe it's 2 games, that can go on simultaneously, but valid concern and noted.
Anyone else? Can you remind me how many homes you will have at build-out?
At build-out, we have 2 phases for this project, 361 total lots. The first phase is delivering 185 lots.
Okay. And the velocity on that, how many are you looking
We're,
at?
we're looking right now, 18 a quarter. And so that would be roughly 2.5 years of supply. We'll look to break ground on phase 2, just in time to deliver that next phase of lots, by the time they run out of lots.
Okay, 18 a quarter starting, I know you've got some rooftops visible already, but,
We don't yet. That might be Mantua,
Okay.
right adjacent to us on the south side of the school.
Yes.
The models will start breaking ground in January.
thanks.
And so Q2 would really be the first kind of push on that first take for those
Okay.
18. Yes, sir.
Thanks. Anyone else? Thank you, Mr. McLean.
Okay. Thank you all.
Thank you, Rob. All right. What we wanted to do tonight, council, is ask our developer to provide an update on the project. And this is not an action item on the Lone Tree Plan of Finance, but as a matter of best practice, what we like to do is come to our councils and explain to you what is about to happen. This is just a presentation, for you to ask questions and make sure that we understand what's going to happen next. The subsequent actions will be actually moving towards the levy of assessments in the first phase of Lone Tree, and then ultimately the issuance of bonds for the benefit of Lone Tree. So what we're going to do here is talk about the plan. So as a reminder, back in February of 2025, the city of Van Alstyne entered into a development agreement with Rob's firm. That development agreement, and I'm going to focus on the financials, outlined that the city agrees to create a public improvement district on the land. On top of that, the city created a tax increment reinvestment zone on the land. Why? Because there are certain features that the development will have that are enhanced for the city. Most importantly, parks and recreation, and then road enhancements. So those 2 things are the ones that brought the TERS forward, aside from the PID incentive that you're giving to this developer. We have 361 single-family homes in this one. It's going to be in 2 phases. We're going to focus only on phase 1. So a public improvement district can be subdivided like that. So we're going to talk about levying assessments only on phase 1 and issuing bonds only for the benefit of phase 1. Phase 2 will be dealt with in the future once a developer is ready to proceed with that, and then he comes forward and asks the city to formally entertain the levy of assessments and issuance of bonds for phase 2. Part of the Development Agreement Council says that the city intends to issue bonds up to $30 million only. So that's our ceiling on the PID. We don't think we'll get there, but that is the ceiling that we have in there. As I mentioned, you have a tax increment reinvestment zone with a 55% participation of your tax rate, whatever your tax rate is at that point in time. But we have 50% in there. And then there's a limitation on how high those annual installments can be for the PID. So the limitation is $3 minus the overlapping taxes that we have. So we have the city, the county, the college district, and the school district. So it's 3 minus those taxes. That is the limitation of how high the annual installments can be on the PID. The developer has constrained itself to 2.85 out of the 3. So just to note that. We're not hitting the ceiling. And then the last thing is that this public improvement district has been created. It was created back in April of 2025. So we have all the setup ready for that. Okay. We're going to focus again on Area 1 or Phase 1. So as Rob mentioned, we have 185 units. We have 90 50s and 95 60s. The expected lot values are actually higher. We just received a draft of an independent appraisal because we want to know how those lots are valued. Because what we don't want is to have more debt than the value of the lots. That's how these pits work. So those numbers are a little dated. When I sent the presentation to your staff, those lot values are actually a little bit higher. And we'll show you the final number when we come with a transaction summary for those. The expected home values come from the developer. So they expect 475 for the 50s and 525 for the 60s, for an average of about 500,000 for the entire phase 1 of the project. What that means, council, is that at build-out, we should expect roughly $92.6 million more in tax base as a result of this project. Now, you do have a TERS incentive for them, so the net revenue for the city as a result of this project is roughly about $230,000 on an annual basis after the TERS incentive, assuming the tax rate remains the same and those home values don't increase over time, that we just freeze everything. $230,000 per year is the incremental revenue that you get out of this project. So when we run the numbers, council, we are deriving a preliminary amount of $11,272,000 worth of special assessments to be considered until October. So the first step would be for you to listen to this plan, ask questions. Second step is for you to call the public hearing on the levy of assessments. And then the final step is to levy those assessments in October. So the assessments will be exactly the amount of bonds. So if you end up levying $11,272,000, the bond issue is the same, $11,272,000. And those two actions happen on the same night. We're targeting your October meeting for that, which would be October 13th. These bonds are not secured by the city's general fund, the city's property tax, the city's water and sewer fund. Nothing secures these bonds other than assessments to be levied and collected within phase 1 of the PID. So not even phase 2 of the PID is included. It's just phase 1 of the PID. Those assessments, that revenue stream that the city collects, is what will be used to pay for those bonds. Again, these bonds don't have any credit implications. As Jorge just described, Moody's understands that these things happen in growing communities. A lot of your neighbors have PIDs, so this is not the first one in this area. So the rating agencies understand that if structured correctly, these instruments don't have a credit impact on you, and that's the case here. All right, so getting into the numbers a little bit, we derived a preliminary number of $11,272,000, and that means the developer contribution is roughly $5.9 million. That number is not reimbursable. So the bond number may change if interest rates change, but this is a preliminary number that we have. At the end of the day, the developer will have to put some money into it because we just don't have enough capacity based on the deal that you have with this developer. So the PID in these preliminary numbers will finance roughly $8,750,000 worth of improvements, and the developer finances the rest. As part of this bond transaction, council, this is a little different than a CO or a refunding bond. We take a little piece of the bond to pay the interest in the first year. Because we're levying the assessments in October, we have to make sure that we carry the interest cost until September of 2027. That's why we have an allowance for interest. You see that capitalized interest line item in there. These being revenue bonds, so we don't have any taxes securing them, we have to have a safety net. So we have a debt service reserve fund that is about a year's worth of payments on average. So we have that line item in there, and that will be part of the bond transaction as well. We have bond underwriting and financing costs. These just being non-rated bonds, these are different instruments, just carry higher financing costs and underwriting costs. So we have an allowance of about $1,057,000 for all those costs that are included in the issuance of PID bonds. And then we have a small allowance for administrative costs. Why? Because this PID should not be a burden on the general fund. So this is like a self-contained project. All the administrative expenses as a result of Lone Tree will be carried by this administrative levy. So over time, you'll be levying a little bit on the administrative side, but at closing of the bond transaction, we're going to have $80,000 sitting there so that you can pay any administrative expenses. For example, notices, legal counsel, engineers, collection costs. The auditor is going to have to look at this, so we have to pay them. We have to pay the trustee, et cetera. So all those costs are not going to be a burden on the general fund. Statistically, so what we did here was a 30-year term on a fiscal year basis. So we have a bond amortizing all the way through fiscal year 57, because we're going to be issuing this in fiscal year 27. We're assuming an interest rate of 6%. That is kind of where the market will be right now. Again, these are not rated bonds. So these bonds will not carry a rating. We don't want to go to the rating agencies and ask for an opinion, because right now we only have one payer, which is a developer. As the project moves forward, the project diversifies. And then maybe in the future, we'll be looking at refinancing this thing. Once it is fully diversified, at that point in time, then yes, we can possibly ask for a bond rating and see if that is investment grade to save a little bit of money as we refinance those bonds in the future if the market cooperates. So remember I mentioned the value of the lots to the debt. So we are almost 2 times. So that is our coverage. So that is a pretty good number. Based on the new numbers I got for the lot values, that should be over 2 now. We have 185 units. The assessment or the lien on those lots is roughly $60,000. So that is the lien that each home will have. And assessments are different than taxes in the sense that you can prepay them. So let's say a homeowner comes over and says, you know what, I want to get rid of my assessment. They just cut a check and they get rid of their assessment and they're not billed anymore. Taxes are not that way. So we have to pay taxes every year. Assessments, they can come over and get rid of it. The gross rate on this one is 97 per 100, but you have a TERS contribution or a TERS buy down. So the TERS will be used to buy down those bills that go to the homeowners. So in the end, these homeowners are going to see a bill of about 67 cents per 100, and that is fixed. So unlike taxes, this PID rate is a snapshot in time, as if these homes were worth $500,000 forever. If these homes grow in value, then that PID rate, that 67 per 100 number, just goes down because the PID assessment is fixed. It doesn't grow like a tax rate does. The average payment of these houses is roughly $4,879, and those numbers are unlikely to change. That is kind of like our cash flow constraint. What could change if interest rates go up is less bonds. If interest rates go down, a little bit more bonds. But the payments that these people will make are going to be about $4,879. The first collection of assessment payments will be until January of 28, because remember, we're levying assessments in October, so we're past the tax cycle for 26. We're going to have an account within the bonds to carry the interest all the way through the end of 27. The first assessment bill will go out to the homeowners in October 1st of 2027, and it will be due by January 31st of 2028. That is the first cash flow that we get. That is the first time we start amortizing, paying the principal down on these bonds. So again, this is not an action item. If this council decides to keep moving forward, then on September 8th, you will be asked to consider a preliminary service and assessment plan. And that plan is going to outline what the Lone Tree PID is. So it's going to say, okay, here are the improvements that are going to be financed. Here's how the financing is going to happen, all the statistics, maps, engineering stuff, location, all those good things. That will be until September 8th. If you decide to approve that, then you call the public hearing for the levy of assessments, and that occurs until your October meeting. At that point in time, you will be considering the levy of assessments and the issuance of bonds. So remember, the assessments will be the bonds. The assessment revenue carries the bond payments. And if that happens, then we will ask our bond attorney to take this to Austin for AG review and approval, and we should be all set to close at the beginning of November. I included a couple of attachments here for the mathematically inclined. So the debt service schedule is going to look something like this. So as you can see, we have about $900,000 in gross payments. Once the project is going and built out, there's a buy down from the TERS. So the net amount is about $620,000, or about 67 per 100 in tax rate equivalent, assuming those values never grow. And then the tax statement here, just to demonstrate that we're not hitting the ceiling that was imposed in the development agreement. It is a $3 per 100. We're at $284.94, just to prove that we're meeting the spirit of the development agreement there. So Mayor, Council, any questions you may have on this plan?
Any questions for Andre? Part of the PID is also the Jim Jones Road extension, and I failed to ask Mr. McLean the schedule for that. Can you enlighten and remind me of that? You can answer from where you're at.
Yeah, that's being paid. That build out. So the first 2 lanes side of the phase. West side will be
Okay, and do you have a completion estimate for the Phase 1 lanes?
It will be in line with the rest of the development.
End of April?
Acceptance will be
Okay, thank you. Anyone else? Thank you, sir. We
Thank you,
very
Mayor.
much
Thank you, Council.
appreciate our partnership ongoing with Hilltop Security. So thank you and your team for coming up here tonight and reminding me and informing the public and everyone else of how this project is going.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you to your team as well for being here tonight. That concludes item 5A. Item 6 is necessary appropriate action. We did not do executive session tonight, so I will declare that to be concluded, and we have concluded our business for tonight. So at 7:15, I will declare the meeting to be adjourned. Thank you all for being here.